All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for a brand new 4over webinar, one in our webinar series that we're holding every single month. So make sure to check out the webinar page to, join future webinars. Please, if you do have any suggestions as far as webinars go, please put them in the question box and I'll go ahead and gather them up at the end. And then that way we can get more ideas to bring you what you want to hear about, not only what we want to talk to you about. So go ahead and put those in the question box just so that we have a recording of it, and then that way we can figure out what to do for the rest of the year. And thank you so much once again for joining us today for this brand new 4over webinar that we are doing on hot markets on the comeback. So during this presentation, I'm going to be talking about some industry information, indicators that we're seeing within not only our customer base, but also in the market itself, to see where the print industry is going really. And then I'll also be able to give you some products that go with those industries that are rising right now. All right, if you do have any questions during the webinar, go ahead and put them into the question box and I will address them at the end of the webinar. All right, so let's get started. Thank you so much once again for joining us. Today, we're gonna be talking about hot markets on the comeback. So really what the print market indicators are telling us that where the industry is going and which industries are rising, which vertical markets and which industries are rising at the moment. So the first one that I do want to talk about is some of the industry information that we've found. Right now, doing some research on the 2022 print marketing statistics, we're looking at who is actually buying print and who is more receptive to print at the moment. And what we found is that at the moment, 92% of 18 to 23-year-olds say that it's easier to read print more than digital content. Now, obviously, younger people are consuming tons and tons of digital media, social media through TikTok, through Instagram, through Facebook, and different social media channels. But when they actually want to make a purchase decision, they prefer print. They're looking more at catalogs. They're looking more at going into a store and looking at a sign. A sign is more attractive to them when passing by a storefront. So this is something that you should communicate to your customers, especially that yes, social media works and it's really good to demonstrate a product visually, but when it comes to actually making a purchase decision, younger people are more motivated when they see a sign outside, when they see an offer in their mailbox, when they're reading a catalog or a print catalog and they're seeing these big, beautiful pictures of what it's looking like. They are more motivated to buy something when they receive some sort of print from that retailer or from that product. So it's a really good indicator of where the industry is heading in the future as far as younger people. Again, kind of like what I just mentioned, 80% of consumers who act on 80% of consumers will act on direct mail that's printed for advertisements. So what that means is when somebody receives something in their mailbox, either through everyday direct mail or through traditional direct mail methods, or even through mail in general, they are acting on a purchase 80% of the time, right? So they're more readily acting on it if they're interested in the product. So it's something good to keep in mind, especially when you're looking at direct mail, when you're looking at everyday direct mail, or EDDM as we call it, or maybe just a mailing campaign in general. Like I mentioned before with younger people, everybody in general is using print more often to be able to grab that action from the customer, to be able to get them to the next step. They're more receptive to print, and they're more receptive to looking at those images and offers, through some sort of visual way, rather than an email blast, rather than social media. Okay. And then, kind of like I mentioned before too as well, 77% of consumers have said that print drives higher levels of recall. So what that means is when somebody is looking at a brand on print, on a postcard, in a print catalog, or something that they're physically holding, they're able to recall the brand, they're able to recall the pricing of the brand, and they're able to recall the product in general more readily. And that also goes for services as well. So, for example, if you're dealing with a lot of customers who are in the services industry, like maybe gardeners, handymen, another one is plumbers, any sort of general services, customers are able to grasp that recall much more readily if they receive something in the mail. Or, for example, even if they if that gardener leaves something with them, like a magnet for their fridge, maybe a brochure of their services, right? They're able to grasp at that brand, that pricing, and that service that they're offering much more readily, and they're more likely to remember it for the future. So these are some good statistics to share with your customers so that way they know also where print is heading, right? And I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. All right, so let's touch on some information as far as what the pandemic has done. So print during the pandemic exploded, really. It actually contracted in the first kind of half of the year and first year, but then businesses started realizing that they really needed to do a lot more print to be able to keep up with the sales and to get people back in, back in mind, to get their brand back in the people's minds. 46% of businesses said that COVID-19 prompted them to purchase print materials. They've realized that social media can only go so far. People were trapped at home and it was hard to communicate with them, even through social media. People were more concerned about, dealing with what they had to do rather than purchasing, right? So purchasing in general kind of fell. But then once things started to get better, small businesses and larger businesses started to realize that social media just wasn't enough anymore. And that's when the big purchasing boom in the print industry started. Direct mail, signage, right? You've seen it all around your probably local community. Even now, like not only during the pandemic, but even now, restaurants are saying that their dining room is now open. Back then, they were saying that they were open for to-go orders, even though, other restaurants were closed around them. They would put a banner just in case somebody was driving by and saying, hey, we have to-go orders available for you. So they're pushing print, they're creating more print to be able to market with their customers because now they've figured out that it works. It's really essential for their business. And then right here, I kind of outlined the top 5 products or types of products that were used as far as during the pandemic. And this is still really true today. Especially in the protocol section for COVID, that stuff is changing all the time. They need to reprint window graphics and posters within their, within their businesses to be able to communicate their, to be able to communicate the new protocols as far as masking goes, as far as, washing your hands and stuff like that, distance, 6-foot distance. That also goes for local and federal government rules. The materials that people were handing out as far as government-wise, like somebody in the government handing it out in the local community, that stuff was really, really popular. And now governments have figured out that it worked back then for pandemic protocols. It's going to work now for their local events, their farmers market. So I think that's one thing that businesses and really everybody has learned in the industry is that the pandemic really pushed a lot of print because people realize that it works. some of the numbers in the past slide are true, right? Brand recognition, being able to recall the information, having something that they can take with them is very, very important. Another really big industry that is coming up, and I'm sure probably a lot of you have seen some print from, if you haven't already, is politics. Here we have a list of all the different primaries right here on the right side, a list of all the primaries and all the different states that those primaries are taking place. It is a big political season this year, and I highly recommend you guys take advantage of it. 67% of US adults said they followed election news closely through print. And that statistic relates exactly with, what I talked about before, which is recalling information, right? Recalling somebody's message, recalling somebody's brand, somebody's face, what they stand for. All of that is really important, especially with direct mail. That's super important with direct mail. Having their message and what they stand for, their policies, what they're going to do once they're elected, communicating all of that, super, super important for political parties and politicians to be able to communicate that to their audience. Banners is another way. When they're having these events, they're needing banners, event tents, tablecloths, brochures, all sorts of different print materials that they can hand out to their people, their constituents, their voters, to be able to drive up voting results. Now, take into account, again, all of this information on the right side here. See what state you're in and really take advantage of it. Yard signs is another really big one that you see all the time, in front of people's houses. Who are they voting for? That's another really big product as far as politics go. And this is going to be a really big industry this year. As I mentioned, just take a look at how many primaries are happening across the United States. So definitely get out there and, have some conversations with politicians if you're not already doing so. All right. And then I think what the last thing I want to hit on as far as, the industry information that we've seen is kind of what I hit on before as well. Businesses have really realized that print is essential in many different ways. It elevates products. It's an effective way to communicate beyond delivery or beyond that initial service that people provide. And they've made it part of present and future marketing plans. Businesses have really realized that print works far beyond social media even. And I think having a complete package is the best way to get the most value out of the marketing plans that a business has, the most return on investment from a business. If they want to sell a new product or if they want to just communicate a message, having a combined marketing plan is always the best, always will give a higher return on investment for those marketing efforts. So communicating to your customers, you guys should communicate to your customers, even if they say, oh, I'm doing email blasts like, every week, it's working fine. Or, oh, I hired somebody on Instagram to promote my product or my service or whatever it might be, or I'm doing the posting myself, right? That's great. That's a good thing, right? They're promoting their business, they're trying to get their name out there, and that's all great. But bundling print will increase their return on investment dramatically. And I think that's the thing that you guys should communicate to your customers for sure. All right, so let's take a look at some of the key products and opportunities that some of these industries that I just talked about really present. And first I'll start with, order pickup and delivery. I think it's a really big passover from the pandemic. And I'm sure you guys are doing a lot more delivery and pickup orders rather than just going into the store, right? there's so much more of that happening because people have realized, like, sometimes I just don't want to go into the store. And this is where print really comes into play, because people can leave things inside, delivery bags. They can leave a brochure, they can leave a postcard in there, a coupon for next time. They can put stickers on their bags, especially for the restaurant industry. That's huge. It's huge. Stickers and labels have become a really big product for us. And we've noticed it because of the pandemic. A lot of people are using it on their food, on their bags. So that way it's sort of a dual purpose security seal and brand communication, right? So that way somebody knows that they haven't tampered with that bag, and it'll communicate their brand and their phone number maybe on that label. Sidewalk signs, I kind of highlighted sidewalk signs because I've been seeing it a lot out in the world, just kind of driving around, and also other printers and office supply people have been pushing the sidewalk sign a lot more. And I think that's because, people are now out in the world a lot more. They're walking around, they're in those kind of communities and business centers and outdoor malls. They're all over the place now. Everybody's walking around in public. So this is a really good way to kind of reintroduce a business to that person walking on the sidewalk. And you can see here the profit potential, the base cost for one of these from us, from Forover, for the largest sidewalk sign, might I add. This is our largest sidewalk sign, 24 by 36 inches. It has coroplast on both sides. So it's 2 pieces of coroplast printed on one side. So that way you can insert it into the Signacade sign on both sides of it. And this is also including that Signacade sign hardware. So the base cost from us is $123. The nationwide average that we've seen customers sell it for is $307 with 50 cents. So the total profit you can make on it is $184.50. And that's, a nationwide average. So again, always take a look at the area around you and see what other people are selling it at. But remember, it's not only about the print price, right? It's about the level of service you can provide, that level of marketing consultation, because that's where the real industry is heading, right? Diversifying your offering and making sure to take care of your customers with the level of service that you can provide. So make sure that margin or that MSRP that you're going to put on for products includes the service you're providing. For those of you who are creating your own designs, right, and you have design services, you can upcharge for that as well. And I would highly recommend for everybody to, at least hire a graphic designer or at least contract with a graphic designer, because that always helps not only to make more profit as far as design wise goes, but it also helps you accept files from customers and change them if you need to, right? Whether it be maybe a name on it or a new logo or a new color, but also in the sense of getting it print ready if it doesn't have bleed or if it needs some adjustment on the cut side. Having a graphic designer contracted or in-house is a huge, huge benefit for you. All right. The next industry that I'll talk about as far as products go is events and gatherings. And I think that's another really big industry that is, as you guys know, exploding right now. We've been to a ton of trade shows recently this year, and every single one of them has been better attended than the projected amount. Everybody has been really receptive to us being there and to being thankful for being there and to, being excited about meeting people, shaking hands, talking to people again. So this, I think, is going to continue at least through the end of the year to be a really big profit maker, especially for you guys in outfitting these sort of events. Event tents are really, really big. That's one of the ones that I highlighted here as far as profit potential, because our product is a really, really good product. It's weather resistant. Our material is really heavy, and you get an all-around print. And we have the templates to be able to help you out with that as well. Fabric flags also, and you know, as you see here, the tablecloth, those are also really good, and they go hand in hand with events. You know, usually the event tent, the flag, and the tablecloth all kind of go together, right? That's how your booth is, or that's how your outdoor kind of area is. That's what a business would need to communicate their brand and their message in an outdoor setting or even at a trade show. Along with that, we're seeing brochures, we're seeing stickers and labels as handouts, postcards, rack cards, anything that delivers information to the customer as they pass by. That's another really good indicator as far as, you know, the amount of people that are going to be at trade shows. We've seen those increase as well because, you know, those trade shows once again are being much more well attended than everybody expected them to be. So these are some really, really good numbers. So just taking a look at the event tent here, our base cost for that event tent, the same exact one that you see on the screen right now, a 10 by 10, 7.9 ounce print. It's an outdoor material. It's a really, really durable event tent material. And that includes the hardware as well with a carry bag. So that comes with a carry along bag. So that way you can carry that event tent anywhere you need to. The event tent does collapse. Our hardware is actually not tubular, but it's hexagonal. So it's a lot stronger. It's aluminum, and it has switches instead of those push pins. So that way you can collapse it a lot easier. So the hardware is very high quality, along with the actual event tent itself. And the base MSRP here you see for that we've seen nationwide is $848.75. Again, you know, judge for yourself how much you need to charge within your own community. But that's what we've seen as far as a nationwide average for one of these is. So that's a really nice kind of chunk of profit that you can make just off of one event tent, you know. And I think this estimate is sort of low, especially if you're going to add design to it. That profit is going to jump dramatically if you're adding profit to that. One thing for events that I usually recommend for people is to put together a package for your customer, right? So it's not only just printing the event tent, but saying, what else can I do for you? Can I do your business cards? Everybody needs business cards for events, right? Can I do maybe a postcard, a direct mail piece? So that way, if that event is taking a place in the local community, maybe you want to saturate mail that area to be able to get people to that event and then to your booth. Bring this postcard back to my tent, to my booth, to be able to get 10% off. A call to action, right? And then I would recommend, you know, kind of like what I mentioned before about digital marketing or social media marketing. If you offer those services, you know, not everybody does, but if you do offer those services, package it up with the print. It really makes sense as far as events go, because not only can you outfit their signage for the event, but maybe you can take pictures at the event and post it on social media for them. Maybe you can send an email blast after the fact and say, thank you very much for joining us at this event. Here's a 10% coupon follow-up that I promised you, you know, or whatever it might be. You can come up with that with your customer. But I highly recommend packaging these things together so that way you can offer your customers a very complete marketing package, which once again will increase their ROI, their return on investment, and they'll be happier. You know, they'll make more profit and they'll be much happier with your services. All right. So that concludes the presentation. The last thing I do want to talk about is if you will be at ISA, the International Sign Expo, which is happening in Georgia, 4over will be there. I will be there, and we'll have our sales team there to talk to you all about 4over. So definitely, if you're going to this trade show that's happening in Atlanta, Georgia, please visit us. Our booth number is 4147. So please visit us in Georgia so that way we can meet you and we can shake your hand. And again, kind of like what I talked about before, this event's going to be a big one. I have a feeling it's going to be very well attended, just like all the other ones that we've been going to. So very excited to meet you guys. Hopefully we'll see you there.